wake up!
What?
Are you Princess Fiona?
I am.
2,000 babies would agree when we say the cartoon industry peaked in the first decade of the 2000s. Arguably, the best franchise in the world was Shrek. Well, we recently uncovered the mind-blowing story behind the grumpy green ogre. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get into it.
Can I stay with you, please?
Of course!
Really?
No.
First off, if you don't know who we're talking about, we're afraid you had a very unfortunate childhood. But don't be disheartened. You can watch the film no matter what age you are right now. If you're a teenager, we think you'll have quite a few laughs if you pick up on a certain Easter egg. For those of you who haven't watched it yet, Shrek is a 2001 American computer animated fantasy comedy film directed by Andrew and Vicky. It's based on the 1990 children's book Shrek by William. The film stars the voices of Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and John. The story centers around the titular character Shrek, a grumpy and reclusive ogre who lives in a swamp. He is disturbed by a group of fairy tale creatures who have been forced to take refuge in his home by the villainous Lord Farquaad. In order to reclaim his privacy, Shrek makes a deal with him to rescue the princess from a castle guarded by a dragon, in exchange for the removal of the creatures from his swamp. Along the way, Shrek develops a bond with the princess and learns about acceptance, friendship, and true love. The movie was a huge commercial and critical success. It was the first animated film to win an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay and was nominated for Best Original Song. The movie was also a box office success, grossing almost $500 million worldwide. It was followed by several sequels and spin-offs including Shrek 2, Shrek the Third, and Shrek Forever After. The best part about Shrek is the involvement of various fairy tale characters and how they all coexist in the same world. Over the 3 films, we get to see appearances from Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and many other princesses who would normally only be seen in their independent movies.
It's present time! Oh, Fiona, won't you please?
As relatable as Shrek may be for many of you, the movie would be incredibly dull and boring if all we got to see was a sober, grumpy ogre trying to always stay as far away from any interactions with the outer world. This is where the side characters come in, especially Donkey, who in the first hour of the first film is the most annoying character Shrek has ever met in his life. The two somehow manage to get stuck with each other after he is initially captured and put in a cage by Lord Farquaad's guards. Shrek saves him and Donkey joins Shrek on his journey to rescue Princess Fiona. Donkey is known for his loud and talkative nature and provides much of the comic relief in the films. He is also fiercely loyal to Shrek and becomes his best friend. Fiona is a beautiful princess Shrek and Donkey initially set out to save from the tower. During the quest, all Shrek wants is to get back to Lord Farquaad so he can finally get some privacy in his swamp. It all changes when he finds out that she is also an ogre. And from there onwards, the two develop a wonderful relationship as friends and eventually as lovers. Apart from Donkey and Fiona, there is Puss, the Cat in Boots, Gingerbread Man, and even Pinocchio. Now that we are all done with the characters and their stories, let's get into the shocking past of Shrek. He wasn't always the big scary monster we know him as.
Whoa. Fiona's father paid you to do this? The Rich King? See.
As we mentioned, the movies are based on the children's book written by William. The book only described the characters and what happens in the story, but all the music and production was done by Disney. The entire story was not told in the films though, and with recent developments, we have uncovered some new pieces of the puzzle when it comes to where Shrek came from. According to Shrek, the musical, Shrek's childhood was just what you would expect an ogre's childhood to be. His parents sent Shrek away when he was only 7 years old, not because he was a bad son or anything. It was the ogre tradition to make the younger ogres go out and face the big bad world alone so that they could mature quickly. In the musical, Shrek is seen struggling to keep up with the world with people screaming at him and treating him poorly. That is why he treats everyone the way he does. He even met Fiona when they were both young. One of the only times Shrek was screamed at or shoved out of the way by someone was when he made eye contact with a young Fiona, who smiled and waved at him before being pulled away by her parents. That moment alone was enough to show us the two were meant to be together forever. Shrek later finds his swamp and scares away an angry mob to finally make this swamp his home. His life was going to be as peaceful as a feared ogre's life can be until Lord Farquaad decides to allow all creatures to access the swamp.
Down to the last slime-covered toadstool.
And the squatters?
As good as gone.
Now, for the truly mind-blowing part, we have found the person the character Shrek was based on. Yes, a real human being looked frighteningly similar to the mean green ogre. This guy had a very rare disease that made him freakishly big and strong just like Shrek. Maurice Tillet was born in Russia to French parents, brought up in France as a French angel. He had enlarged bones and tissues, which despite being the result of an incredibly rare disease, made him a very competent wrestler. He developed the condition in his 30s, which propelled him to being a pretty popular wrestler in Europe and the USA. It was during his peak in his career when Shrek was being produced. Additionally, according to multiple accounts, one of the artists working on sculpting the character was seemingly obsessed with wrestling weirdos. So maybe he consciously or unconsciously thought of Maurice when asked to come up with a freakishly large and grouchy character. Maurice wasn't the only one who contributed to the iconic personality of Shrek. The voice actor changed after the first one. Chris Farley died after recording 90% of his part. Mike Myers was then cast, and the rest, as they say, is history. Did you know that Chris Farley's Shrek was much nicer than the Shrek we got to see? Tell us in the comments about all the scenes that you think would have gone differently if Chris had the chance to complete his part.
You a mean green fighting machine. Together we'll scare the spit out anybody that crosses us.
Coming back to the human Shrek. What was the disease that made him into such a monster? Don't get us wrong, Maurice is a pretty good-looking lad as a teenager. But at 19 years of age, he learned from a medical professional that he had the disease known as acromegaly. The condition is caused by a pituitary tumor releasing too much growth hormone. This causes freakish swelling of the face, hands, and feet. In addition, the symptoms include bone overgrowth and thickness. This illness tragically affected young Maurice's life, who wished to be a lawyer as a child. Once his appearance had been altered, him and his peers felt that he would be at a significant disadvantage should he have continued that path. But he found out that all was not lost when he first met Carl in 1937. Carl was smart enough to see that Maurice's weirdly large body could be used as a significant advantage. Killer Carl taught Maurice all he knew about the trade, and considering he was a multiple-time champion in various wrestling promotions throughout his career, Maurice had a pretty good teacher. His career was shockingly good. Normally, you would expect someone who had undergone such a drastic change to struggle to adapt to his new physical attributes. But Maurice did amazingly well. His appearance turned him into something of a spectacle, making him the showpiece of several big events. Maurice was the AWA World Heavyweight Champion from 1940 to 1942, and considering the man had given up on his dreams not long ago, he did pretty well for himself. What do you think about the possibility of Shrek being inspired by the wrestling champion? Let us know in the comments below. There is no official word on whether Shrek was, at some level, inspired by Maurice, but the evidence is there. Well, that's about it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.
If one of you drinks this, you both will be fine, happiness, comfort, and beauty divine.